Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namah. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Anam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badharayanam Sutrabhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Hari Om. We are in the topic of Vijnanamaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha Vichara. That's what's going on. And it was defined to be the intellect along with the 5 organs of knowledge. Buddhi and the Pancha Jnanendriyas together constitute the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And it is endowed with the reflection of consciousness. And with that enlivening, it develops the I notion, the Kartritva Bhava. The Ahankara is in, first it starts in the Buddhi. And that is the cause for samsara. This I notion is there all the time. And it brings about a very strong identification with the rest of the upadhis, with the body, the mind, and with all that, strong sense of individuality is developed. This individual, jiva, is there from beginningless time. And it claims itself as the I, performs all actions, good and bad, and experiences the results of those actions. Punkte vichitra svapi yonishu vrajan ayati niryatyadavurdvameshah asyaiva vijnanamayasya jagrate swapnadyavastha sukadukka bhogah. This experience of sukha and dukkha, joy and sorrow, that's what it goes through. In different bodies, different births, and all the three states of experiences belong to this jiva only. This is what happens. Dehadinishta shramadharma karma gunabhimana satatam mameti vijnana kosho yamate prakashah prakrishta sanityavasat paratmanah ato bhavatyesha upadirasya yadatma dihi samsarati brahmena. So the first mistake is identification. Claiming all the features of the body as my own features. The upadhi dharma is taken to be, my dharma. This Vijnanamaya is brilliant because of its closeness, proximity to Atma in terms of subtlety, not physical. There's nothing physical in any of this. So the attributes of the Vijnanamaya are seemingly transferred to the Atma. And then the Atma appears to be attributed with all those qualities. This is what is called adhyasa. And because of that, delusion is there. The jiva, the individual, takes Vijnanamaya kosha itself to be it and suffers from samsara. So we have seen up to this so far, and it's further explained in the next verse, 189. Let us read. Yoyam vijnanamaya praneshu Yoyam vijnanamaya praneshu Hritespuratyayam jyotihi Kutastas sannatmakarta Kutastas sannatmakarta Bhokta bhavatyubadis upadishtatah Bhokta bhavatyupadishtatah Yoyam vijnanamaya praneshu Hritespuratyayam jyotihi Kutastas sannatmakarta Bhokta bhavatyupadishtatah. With the previous verse, the Vijnanamaya topic is really complete, is over. Shankaracharya, however, takes a little diversion here. From verse 189 up to verse 205. This is a digress. This is for the purpose of explaining the word upadhi. We have used this word upadhi, and most of you know what it is. Come across this word many, many times. So you do know, but Vivekacu being an exhaustive text, he's going to take time to explain what that is. And it's a good refresher for all of us anyway. So I had said before that upadhi is that which apparently transfers its attributes to some upahitam. So the concept of upadhi and upahitam go together. So when you explain upadhi, it will be incomplete without the topic of upahitam. What do these words mean? We will see in detail. The word upadhi is meaningless without upahitam. So he takes up upahitam also for discussion in this context. Now, in this discussion, the upahitam is the Atma. Atma is the upahitam. It should be discussed after discussing Anandamaya Kosha. Because Atma discussion comes, it's even subtler than Anandamaya Kosha. So, but he brings it forward a little bit in the context of Upahita to explain the Upadhi. So he will discuss the topic of Atma also after we complete the discussion of Anandamaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, and then none of them is Atma. And what exactly is Atma? That is the sequence. But he talks about Atma to explain Upahitam. Okay. So once Upadhi and Upahitam are understood, then we can talk about the confusion. The mistake we make in the form of this adhyasa, superimposition or transference of attributes from the Upadhi to the Upahita. The qualities of the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the Upadhi, are transferred to the Atma, the Upahita. First, he defines the Upahita Atma. So what is this Upahita Atma? How do you know that there is such a consciousness? What is the proof? We do not see the all-pervading consciousness. We don't see it at all. We cannot hear it. We cannot touch it. Cannot taste it. So what is the pramana? Pramanam is only Shruti Pramana. So Shankaracharya says the Shruti Pramanam reveals that consciousness. Therefore, he brings in the Shruti Pramana here. He quotes a mantra from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The reference is 4.3.7. It's in a Brahmana called Swayam Jyoti Brahmana. The chapters in Brihadaranyaka are called Brahmana. So this is in Swayam Jyoti Brahmana. The first line of this verse paraphrases that mantra. So what does it say? Ayam Vijnanamayah. Okay, we have to be a little bit careful here. It's a little bit of a misleading expression. Here, hear me out very clearly. Here the word Vijnanamaya, which occurs in this mantra, is in the meaning of pure consciousness. Okay, it is not the kosha. Vijnanamaya here in this particular mantra does not refer to the kosha. In this context, it refers to Atma Chaitanyam, the original pure consciousness. That is why Upanishads are confusing. Commentaries are required, and we have to study this under the guidance of a guru. Otherwise, if we just read it, oh, okay, Atma, look in the dictionary, Vijnanamaya, okay, it is a Sheath, it is not Atma. So you take it and then you'll be thoroughly misled. So the logic is also given why this meaning is taken, but we will not get into all that. So suffice it to say, Vijnanamaya here means Atma. Consciousness, Atma, is called here Vijnanamaya. I am Vijnanamaya. I am Atma. This Chaitanya consciousness, Praneshu, is present, is manifest in every sense organ. Here again, the word prana is not the narrow definition of prana. It refers to all sense organs. And we have seen this meaning, sense organs called as prana. More recently, we saw that in Chandogya. We saw that. So, prana here means the sense organs. Vijnanamaya means the Atma. In this mantra, that is how we have to understand. It is present in every sense organ. Thus, brain, the human body, becomes a medium for the manifestation of consciousness. Shastra does not accept consciousness as a product of matter, as science explains it. Modern day science, they talk about consciousness evolving from matter. But the Shruti does not accept that. We do not say life as something which has evolved out of matter. Like all that Big Bang came, and thereafter they were all moving about, and group of particles were there. They accidentally joined together, and then the DNA and the RNA and all that explanation. First, unicellular organism came, and an emergent consciousness. All that explanation, Shruti does not accept. Shastra does not accept that. What Shastra says is, Big Bang may be there. That all explains the material part of it. That's all okay. We see as arrival as an ideal medium for manifestation of consciousness. We do not accept the origin of consciousness. We accept its manifestation. So, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, later in that same Brahmana, it says, Etebhyo bhutebhyah samuttaya taneva anu vinashyati. 4.5.13. Very important mantra, which says consciousness manifests along with the body. And consciousness goes back to unmanifest condition along with the body. Therefore, manifestation and unmanifestation takes place. There is no production or complete destruction per se. Consciousness is never produced from matter. Therefore, this consciousness, praneshu, manifests in the sense organs. That is why in another Upanishad, it is described as Shrotrasya Shrotram, Manaso Manoyat, Vachoha Vacham, Savu Pranasya Prana. Kena Upanishad. Here prana is translated as sense organs. So, I am Jyotihi, this self-effulgent consciousness, this light of all lights, Hridispurati, shines in the mind of everyone. Here, Hrid means Antakarana, mind. So the consciousness manifests, is reflected in Antakarana. So consciousness manifests in the Antakarana and enlivens the mind, enlivens the thoughts, its emotions, and later through the mind illumines the external world also. So Atma is the Upahita Chaitanya. It is Kutastaha Nirvikaraha, changeless principle. Unlike Vijnanamaya, which is subject to change, it is subject to travel. The Vijnanamaya is also a sentient entity, a changing sentient entity, whereas Atma is a changeless sentient entity. One is the pure original consciousness, the other, Vijnanamaya, intrinsically it is inert, but it has the ability to reflect consciousness, and when it gets the reflection, it becomes a sentient entity temporarily. So there is a Savikara Chaitanyam, the reflected consciousness enlivening the Vijnanamaya Kosha. That is what I mean by Savikara Chaitanyam. And the Nirvikara, changeless, original, pure consciousness Chaitanya. The Savikara Chaitanyam is the Upadhi, and Nirvikara Chaitanyam is the Upahitam. So when I ask which one is there, both are there. So never ask who uses the word I. I is the mixture alone, because they are co-located, they are in the same place. And that is why it's very difficult for us to separate them. It's a mixture. And as we go through life in the transactional plane, we, even without thinking, mix them up and continue to use it that way. But when we come to this Vedantic study, and when you are taking these steps to progress on the spiritual path, this understanding we need to have. That's all. So, the Paramatma is never separated from Jivatma, never exists without Jivatma, never exists without Paramatma. So, when I say the lower Amsha is there, along with the higher Amsha, that is also there. To use the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Apara Prakriti is there and Para Prakriti is also there. The Apara Prakriti is the empirical I, the Para Prakriti is the absolute I. So I, which is a mixture of the empirical, Vyavaharic, and absolute Paramarthik I. But which one is the real I? That is what we need to understand and identify with. The Akarta I is the real I. Here only we make the blunder. Karta Bhokta Bhavati. We become that. So this I, whose real nature is Akarta Abhokta, now appears as Karta and Bhokta. So if somebody asks me, and I, a Karta or a Bhokta, there's nothing wrong in you saying I am a Karta and Bhokta. At the empirical level, that is true. When we are transacting in this world, nothing wrong in saying Karta Bhokta. That is why a Jnani also accepts Prarabdha. Jnani, after he gains his knowledge, he will still use the word I in transaction, and that will refer to the actions of the Upadhi. But Jnani is ever aware of the absolute I, in front of which the empirical I is insignificant. In front of the absolute I, all the problems will be there, but they will be very small, very insignificant. Jnani's body will have pain. It will go through sickness, disease, etc. But he is not going to suffer emotional distress. He has separated the body. This is how. That does not mean he's going to be careless, not take care of the body. Nothing like that. Whatever is necessary, he will do. Similarly, here also, I want the empirical eye to be healthy, to be dharmic. I want to do only good from the empirical standpoint. Therefore, follow dharma as the empirical eye. But the absolute level, no dharma, no dharma. Sarva dharman parityajya, Bhagavan has said. And we have to understand that shloka very well. So I can look at it from the absolute standpoint and from the relative standpoint, but the real standpoint is only the absolute. So we have to understand that and abide in that. Continuing, verse 190. Swayam parichedamupetya buddhehe Swayam parichedamupetya buddhehe tadatmya doshena param rushatmanah tadatmya doshena param rushatmanah सर्वात्मकः सन्नपि वीक्षते स्वयं सर्वात्मकः सन्नपि वीक्षते स्वयं स्वतः प्रकृत्वेन मृदो घटानिव स्वतः पृथक्त्वेन मृदो घटानिव स्वयं परिचेतमुपेत्य बुद्धेः तादात्म्यदोषेण परं मृषात्मनः सर्वात्मकः सन्नपि वीक्षते स्वयं स्वतः पृथक्त्वेन मृदो घटानिव. So, how we mix up the real superior I and the incidental inferior I. That inferior I, the lower I, the empirical I, the transactional I, is incidental. How do we prove? How do we prove something is intrinsic or incidental? We've talked about this before many, many times. Simple example, I will repeat it here. Water is hot. The heat in the water. For the water, it is incidental. The heat goes away in due course. You boil water in a pot and the water is hot. Is that heat the intrinsic nature of that water? We say no, because you take it off the stove, put it aside. After a little while, it will come to the ambient temperature. Cool down, the heat will be gone. So that heat in that water comes and goes. But if it is fire, that heat will always be there. It doesn't go away because that is intrinsic. Fire is hot, period. That heat is intrinsic. Water is hot, but that heat is incidental. So if you understand this idea, then we can apply to our three states of experience. The Jagrata Avastha, the waking state. I experience. There is an experience of I. This Jiva I goes through various experiences. Swapna Avastha, again, it is there. But when that I the individuality, the ahankara, that goes away in deep sleep. Sushupti avastha, it is not there. That lower I, the inferior I, the ego, the ahankara, karta, bhokta. What are you in deep sleep? You doing anything? Can you claim I am a karta? Bhokta? Any specific experiences you can relate? No. Ahankara is resolved. So from this it is very clear. Only in the presence of buddhi and mind, I experience everything, all the limitations. All the experiences are there when the buddhi is there. When the buddhi, the mind, sense organs, the body aware, body, all of them, when they are not there in deep sleep, no experience. So all these things, buddhi, mind, sense organs, they come and go. They go through these three avasthas. So they are not real. So this is the logic. Again, I mentioned this term, shouldn't come anything new, anvaya vyatireka. When something is there, the other thing is there. When it is not there, it is not there. We use this technique in the world also. Supposing you have some allergy, and we want to find out which one is that allergen. So you go to an allergy specialist, and he will expose you to various common allergens and see whether you react. Okay, this one, you're okay. Then let's try the other one. You're okay. Then comes this peanut. Okay. Breaking out all over. Aha. So like that. So many allergens are there. So in the presence, yes. In the absence, no. Same idea. So when buddhi and sense organs, mind, they're all there. The experiences are there, samsara is there. And that is the ahankara. That is what goes through all that. When it is not there, I have what? Brahma Anubhava, Sukham. We're studying that elaborately in the 11th chapter of Panchadashi. The entire chapter is devoted to this only. So that is my true nature. So the mind and intellect function in the Jagrat, Swapna, waking and dream. Then I have an incidental identification, localization. The mind, intellect get resolved in Sushupti, deep sleep. So the mind's incidental localization is dropped. So I am Swayam Sarvatmakaha. By myself, from the standpoint of my superior nature, I am the consciousness. Sarvatmakaha. That is there in all bodies. I am the superior I, which is there not only in my body, it is behind all bodies, all minds. As Bhagavan Sri Krishna says in the 13th chapter of the Gita, Kshetrajñam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Hey Arjuna, understand that I am the Kshetrajña, the indweller in all kshetras, in all bodies. Buddhi varies from body to body. Just like the filament in the bulb. These days, you don't even see these incandescent bulb. Okay, so The newer generation, if we give this expression, what filament? But I know you all know about this. So when it is there, and depending upon it, the intensity of light eventually that comes and goes, they're all different. 40-watt bulb, 100-watt bulb, 250,000. But the electricity that is going through, one principle. Similarly, consciousness is one. Therefore, I am that superior I. Sarvatmakaha, self of all. Again, this was also mentioned in the second chapter of the Gita. I am Nitya Sarvagata Stanuhu Achalaha. I am Sanatanaha. Bodies are many. Dehas are many, but Dehi, the indweller, is one. So this is what is said here also. Swayam Sarvatmakaha. That I is only the one behind all bodies. Sannapi. Even though this is the fact. Sat api. Sannapi. Buddhehe parichedam upetya. One takes the limitations of the buddhi swayam upon oneself. This is the transference. This is the adhyasa, superimposition. One takes the limitations of buddhi, the lower I, on itself. Nobody forces you to do so. We ourselves commit this mistake. Just like the elephant shows the mud upon itself. You would have seen this. Elephant is given a nice bath, nicely scrubbed, and you know how long it will take to bathe an elephant. Okay, poor fellow, the mode, he takes care of all that, and then it comes, and then it's going to pick up all the dirt, mud, and then sprinkle on itself. There is a certain reason for it to do so, but nobody forcing. The caretaker doesn't have a spray of, just like we spray so many things after we take bath. He doesn't have to do that for the elephant, does it itself? So every individual by himself or herself, upetya, takes to this parichedam, limitations. This limitation is not only physical, so many other limitations are there. I was free. I was single. And what to do? I got married. Then you get the husband-I status. All limitations that come with that. All loss of freedom that comes with that happens. Then I become a father. Father status. Everything, all responsibilities. So, whenever you take on any identification, it comes up with responsibilities, so many duties, so many limitations are there. All limitations belong to the inferior I. I throw all that upon myself, and the superimposed limitation is what we call samsara. Therefore, buddhehe, here buddhi means the inferior I, the ahankara, ego, the vijnanamaya kosha. And one more thing, what type of buddhi is it? Mrishatmanah, the buddhi which is of inferior reality, lower nature. It's only vyavaharika satyam. Atma is paramarthika satyam. So from the standpoint of paramarthika satya atma, the vyavaharika satya ahankara is inferior. Therefore, mrishatmanah, all because of tadatmya doshena, flawed identification. Tadatmya identification. Dosha, that is flawed, erroneous. One has taken the limitations of buddhi because of this tanmayatva, tadatmya, tat, tanmaya, that is me. Identification. Like watching a movie. When I watch a movie, and if you get really sucked into that movie and you start identifying with the hero or the heroine, then all their problems become your problem. But generally, I'm enjoying the movie. As long as you're a witness, you can enjoy it. But when you get into the character yourself, then you go through all the suffering also. Therefore, he says, tadatmya doshena, which is otherwise called adhyasa. So you will come across these words. They all mean the same. And it is called a dosha. It's not a deliberate superimposition. It is not adhyaropa. You must distinguish adhyaropa with this tadatmya. Unfortunately, in English, we translate both as superimposition. Okay, we need to be careful. One is deliberate. Adhyaropa is deliberate. It's a teaching technique. You do all that and then you will negate it. Adhyaropa. But it is not like that. Here it is adhyasa, not deliberate. In the absence of knowledge, in ignorance, we do this. So, but when we go to a movie, it's a deliberate act, and you may also get involved. Really appreciate. Oh, that character, that actor, he really got into the character. He not only got into the character, I also got in. You may do that for that hour and a half, 2, what have you. And you might enjoy that. But that's all deliberate. You may even shed tears. But at the end of the movie, you wipe your tears and then, that was a good movie, I tell you. You appreciate that. There you can get in and get out. But what we call this life, it's a tougher task. And the path we are on, the spiritual journey we are undertaking, the study of the scriptures, is to help us in that process. So Vedanta says, if we can do the same thing with regard to the inferior I and get over it, then that's wonderful. You can become the empirical I, do the transaction in the world. Be the wife, be the husband, be the children, be the parent, be the neighbor. Shed tears also. Nothing wrong. And also have a few laughs. Everything is fine. But all that should be manageable for you. Do you handle them properly? Do you manage it? Or you are getting carried away by that? That's the difference. Jnani is able to handle everything. Therefore, tadatmya doshena, because of this confused identity, here the word param is used. The param means merely. One takes the limitations of the inferior I merely because of identification. Therefore, what happens is vikshate. he looks upon himself and the creation or living beings, swataha pratakwena, as different from himself. We are not able to get over the duality, the multiplicity. The differences are there. Taking the properties of the inferior I, identifying with that, and seeing the other people with different properties, qualities, abilities, etc. They are different from me, I'm different from them. All this plurality, all that is there. So many buddhis are there, many egos are there. Then there is all these egos clash. So this is all from the standpoint of inferior. But from the superior I standpoint, there is only Advaita. It's no problem at all. Therefore, whether there should be Dvaitam or Advaitam, it depends on how I look at myself. If it is inferior I standpoint, there will be Dvaitam, plurality. From the superior standpoint, there is only Advaita. To give a simple example, again, example we have seen before, the wave. Wave will see duality or non-duality. It depends on how the wave looks at itself. The wave has two aspects. One is the water, the essential nature of wave. The wave is nothing but water. It also has a certain form, and that form, that shape gives it the name wave. So Namarupa aspect is there, and from that standpoint, it is called a wave. But if you disregard the Namarupa, it is water. And looking at it as water, it is like every other wave. The wave nature is inferior, water nature is superior. Wave nature is incidental, water nature is intrinsic. So if it uses the word I as a wave, the inferior I, it will be there. Many waves will be there. The wave next to it may be a bigger wave. All that will be there. How can the wave get out of that limitation? What should it do? Need not do anything. It's only shift the I from that of the wave to the water. And the wave can say, I am the all-pervading water. So in the same way, Swataha pratakwena vikshate. Once is the entire creation as different from oneself when identified with the inferior I, the lower I. When that is not true. Here in this verse, he has given another example. Mrudo gataniva. Like the pot is seen different from clay. Mrud is the clay. But in the form of gata, various parts are there. There are many. But from the standpoint of clay, there is only one. So the real nature of pot is clay, and yet it is seen as different from clay from the standpoint. That leads to confusion. In the same way, when I identify with the mana buddhis, chitta, ahankara, and deha, multiplicity will be there, suffering will be there. But when I identify with that Chidananda, the Chit Atma, Atma Chaitanyam, the superior I, then there is no confusion. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.